All right. I think I'm live. I never remembered to do the age-old test. The age-old test of actually seeing that I'm really live, which means pulling up on my phone. And I could just pull up another tab, but no, we're not going to do that. All right, it looks like I'm live. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Anybody watching this in the future? On the day of my birth, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, Sammy, thank you for coming, buddy. Or New Jersey's little boy. Oh, I wish the birthday hat was more in frame. It's good to see you, buddy. I really miss you. I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed Perfect Blue the other day. That made me very happy. That is a very, very, very good film. Hello, future self. Oh, yeah. So anybody watching this in the future too? It's my birthday, July 14. Many moons ago, 28 moons ago, I was done born. Let me tell you, the birthdays aren't so special after like 21, but they're all right. Today is special because I get to hang out with you guys. I got some cool time with my family earlier. It was nice. I'm gonna finally make the mecca of anime list videos, something that I've really avoided for a long time, and mostly because I was trying to figure out a lazy way to do it. And I have figured it out today. Hi, congrats on being slightly older now. Level 1 anime dude. Welcome, buddy. It's good to see you. So this is my lazy way of doing my top anime list. In that I say easy and lazy, but it really was not easy. It is certainly lazy. I could just record this as a video. Now, I don't really like to edit, so that video would take a bajillion years to upload. And I really don't want to be doing that. But it would take like a long time and just longer than I really want to. So I was like, why not just do it as a live stream? I liked live streaming the other day. I enjoy live streaming when I get with the Segoy Boys, J-Chip, and Dread, which we will get back to at some point, just on a little bit of a hiatus. But today is selfishly my day. As you can see in this crazy lighting that I have down here, this beautiful, beautiful, not great lighting that I have down here. I do have this dumb birthday hat. This is not staying on for the entire stream, by the way. No fucking way. No way is this staying on. I'm gonna give it a couple minutes, and then we're gonna get into my list. I'm gonna do my top 28 anime of all time, with some rules to that. But how's everybody doing tonight? If you agree, disagree with me in the chat while I talk about this list, let me know. Although I'm going to tell you straight up, it's not going to change my list. This is my list. I have been tinkering with this physically for days, mentally for years. So my list is going to be my list. This is my opinion. It can change. It will change. I promise. I'll lay down some ground rules. I'll wait till we get to near the 5-minute mark. See if we get any stragglers or anything coming in. My assumption is that hopefully a lot more people are watching this in the future. Definitely got to watch myself in the future and see how insane this COVID beard is. This is pretty nuts right here. Pretty homeless looking, I will say. This is definitely the most homeless I've looked in 28 years. I can assure you of that. But let me lay down some of the ground rules for this. I probably should have put the ground rules in the description because I feel like people are going to be asking me about some of the rules 30 minutes into this live stream, but fuck it. This is a budget YouTube channel who does things lazily. And if you don't like that by now, I don't know why you're here. So
my list of my 28 favorite anime of all time. This is just going to count anime series, and anime OVAs. I am omitting films, movies, and anything that I haven't completed. At least, like, some of this is going to be, I had the restriction of, like, I have to have at least seen like a full season of the show. And the one, I really think that only comes up like once on here where it's actually like an issue, is there's one particular show that I've only seen the first season of, and the first season made me want to put it on this list, and I haven't seen any more. But the first season of that series stands out within the community, and I think it'll be pretty clear. I'll bring it up when I talk about that particular show. So like I have to have started it, at least like seen like a season. I'm omitting any movies and films because those, I feel like it's kind of weird to compare them. One is like a way bigger budget, something like that. Hey, Lax, good to see you, buddy. I love the Snorlax picture. Oh, it's been a long day. Went to work today. Got in some traffic on the way back. Some craziness happened. I don't know why I said that's crazy. It's not really crazy, but so omitting movies, sticking with OVAs and series. And again, your favorite anime might be wonderful. It might mean a lot to you. This is my list. I've been working at this for a while. It will adjust in the future. I'll probably, maybe I'll do this next year. I'll do 29, or maybe I'll wait 2 years and do 30. Who knows? I kind of really stole this idea from Digibro, DigiNay now on YouTube. Pretty inspirational channel to me in a lot of regards. He did his 27 a year ago. And so I decided I'm going to do my 28. Celebrate my birthday with you guys. That really mean a lot to me. You know, I'd say that cute little sentence at the end of every video, and I really do mean it. It means a lot if you've taken the time to watch even one of my videos or something like that all the way through, part of it. And if you enjoyed any of it, that's really cool. Big thanks ahead of time to all my patrons, stuff like that. You guys are really awesome. Anybody that's shown me any of these anime in the past, big thank you to you. But I guess without further ado, I'll give one last warning that some of this is nostalgia points. Some of this is like when I watched it, how it relates sort of to me personally, very personal, opinionated list here. These are definitely not the 28 greatest quality anime ever. This is not an art house project. This is not something where it's like these, should be in a museum. For the most part, these are shows that I think almost everybody should watch. And that I would not really have a problem ever rewatching. A lot of them I've seen more than once. In fact, most of them. And I gladly recommend them to most, if not all, people. Totally going to copy you and do my 18 in about a month. Have at it, man. I would say maybe I don't know where you're at currently with like anime that you've seen, but you want to kind of weigh it out like percentage wise to what you've seen, because I used to want to do this a long time ago, but I realized I should probably add, I still don't think I've really seen enough anime to make like, this is coming off, by the way, because it's really frustrating. It was worth it for the meme, but yeah, there we go. There was that. We'll have it. My water bottle can have it. There we go. Okay. So to put a sort of perspective here, I do want to. I'll look at my own MAL. I should have actually wrote this down. It's not fully updated. My MAL really needs my anime list. If you don't know what that is, my anime list is a website where you can chronicle all the stuff that you've seen. It hasn't been updated in a while. I have some scores on here that I really need to like update, higher and lower, upon just like getting older. My thoughts on shows. There's like some 9s that I gave shows that certainly aren't 9s, and there's like some lower scores that the show really didn't deserve that. And there's some shows that I've seen and movies that I've seen that I have not added to this just yet. But according to my MAL, I've completed 208 anime.
So there's definitely more than that, and a lot of those I've seen multiple times. So there's that. I guess I'll link my Mal to the chat because I think I can do that. Hey, Sweet Pea. Hey, Unknown, what's up? So here's I think this works. That's a link to my Mal. It's just the Miasma one because I was super creative back in whenever I made that. It has a dumb little, that Gengar picture used to be my computer background for a long time. But that is just an accurate description of like a lot of the stuff I've seen. It is not, not 100%. But all right, we've already rambled for 10 minutes. I apologize if you wanted this to get going from the get-go. 6 people watching. Thank you so much for coming. It means a lot to me. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Easy prediction number 1. I'm going to ignore the predictions. I'm going to ignore some of chat because I feel like I'm going to like trigger some people in whatever. But I'll pay attention here and there. But a lot of this is me, doing this instead of recording because I'm lazy like that. I'm going to talk about the show. I'll give like the year. Because I obviously don't have any like clips or anything of it. I'll say the show and the year. That way you can look it up on my anime list yourself. Check it out in the future, something like that. Because some of these are kind of obscure. I cannot do a list without the ultimate dishonorable or honorable mention. That is Garzy's Wing. If anybody has seen Garzy's Wing in the chat, you know why I refer to it as a must-watch anime. Garzy's Wing is literally the like worst, one of the like, it's so bad it's funny English dubs of an anime that I've ever seen. There's literally like there's like some YouTube video that's called like it's like the best of Garzy's Wing. Watch that video at least, and then see if you can watch. It's like a really short OVA series. I think it's like 3 episodes. Totally worth it. I watched it with J-Chip and Dread a while ago. It is an amazingly funny. The show is not very interesting at all. It's like this weird like fantasy type show, but it's just the dub. There's a bunch of like really quotable, stupid freaking lines from the dub. That it's from like the 90s. I think like early 90s. I would say. Maybe not. It might even be later. It's from the 90s, and it's like back when like they were just pushing out dubs and not really giving a shit about it. It's really really bad. Like it's like in some perspective, like it's a bit like a guy goes to this like fantasy world, but his body stays behind, and his body is alive in like modern day Japan, and his mental state goes back in time or wherever he went. And they can still communicate with each other through this like necklace. It makes about as much sense as I'm saying, by the way. This anime moves 500 miles an hour. It's stomped. You are watching and it's already on its gas pedal. It never makes any sense. Don't try and think about it. It's like watching like Most Extreme Elimination Challenge back in the day. It's just like a turn your brain off kind of thing. It is really funny, but there's this one scene where he's describing the world around him to himself in Japan because they have like separate personalities now for some reason. And he's talking about how like he has seen monsters, but he says a line something a lot like, even dinosaurs are here and they have bows and arrows. There's no dinosaurs. There's no dinosaurs. Like even dinosaurs are here. There are bows and arrows. But yeah, that's enough about Garzy's Wing. I don't have it really on the list, but anytime I do a favorite list, I have to mention Garzy's Wing because I consider it an anime that everyone has to at least try. It is so funny. Watch it with your friends. Watch it while you're drinking or something. Watch it, nice fine adult beverage like this water. This is what I pound down on my birthday, by the way. But yeah, watch Garzy's Wing. Watch it with your friends. On the real list, number 28, my 28th favorite anime series slash OVA of all time. Again, we're omitting movies, anybody that just got here. Movies, I put on a kind of different pedestal, and it made this list a little easier to make. Number 28 is a series called Rec. Literally R-E-C, as in recording. This is from 2006. It is like 9 episodes long, but they're like half length. So it's kind of like a movie. You can just watch it. It's 9 like half episodes. So it's like 4.5 real episodes of anime or so. And it is, I have not seen enough romantic comedy anime to necessarily like say it's the best, but it is certainly my favorite. Because, well, A, I like obscure stuff and nobody really ever talks about Rec. B, it's really short, and it's also really good at like what it is. It is a fairly realistic rom-com. It is about this voice actress girl and this marketing businessman dude who life sort of like puts them together. And like bad stuff has happened sort of in both of their lives and have led them like in life towards each other. And then they also get pushed toward each other in their respective careers. She starts to do voice acting for a commercial that he's doing like the marketing for. This happens after they've already sort of started this romantic relationship. It actually starts out with them like they go on this one date and literally like hook up the first night. And it's not like an ecchi type thing. It is a pretty genuine thing I could see like happening with people. It is, he was like there for her when she like really, some bad stuff really happened to her. And he happened to be there. She ends up like losing her home. He's like, oh, you could stay here. He's actually a really like nice guy and everything. And she's really funny. And they're a great pair for one another. And it never gets like too over dramatic. It never gets too over the top. It is just very heartwarming. It's got an awesome OP. Highly recommend Rec from 2006. R-E-C. Not the horror movie from Spain or whatever. Although that's also good. But please watch Rec, the anime. I don't know where. Well, you're probably going to have to watch it illegally at this point. But whatever. Number 27 is an anime series from 2013. This is my one exception on this list where I said before that I think everybody would enjoy basically everything on here. I have a hard time saying that with this particular one. And I think this is like the only instance of this because I don't think everyone would really understand this show in the sense that like, I don't think everybody can relate to it. And that's Watamode from 2013. It's like short for Watashi ga motenai no wado kange temo omairu gawarui. And I actually have with me from Akihabara, Japan. I always flex this when I can. Little Tomoko statue figure from the show itself, from Watamode. She's the main character. And it's a pretty bizarre show. It's basically about this girl who is insanely antisocial, yet has this mission to become the most popular girl like ever. But she has a complete inability to interact with people and socialize and would much rather like play video games and watch anime and be to herself. And she is like she's like a insane example of like someone that would definitely be like a neat and like never go outside, but she's put into a lot of situations where like she goes out in public and it just doesn't go well. It's a very dark comedy kind of story. If you've ever had any trouble like fitting into like a certain crowd or something like that, this is definitely one where I think that if you've ever had like any feeling that like you think that you don't, you're not the most social person in the world or something like that, there's a lot of like catharsis to this series. And it's pretty funny at times. I think so. So Watamode is number 27. Number 26 is Battle Angel Alita, the OVA. Now, this is like one of my main reasons for including OVAs in these because I really didn't want to make the list without this. This is from 1993. If Alita sounds familiar to you, This is James Cameron made a movie about this, and it was a pretty good. I think it's like the best like live action anime adaptation. Granted, that's not really saying anything. That's like saying you beat like a guy with his legs tied together in like the 100-meter dash. Like that's really not saying much when you're competing with like Ghost in the Shell and the like American Death Note live action. But James Cameron did a pretty good job, I think. But the manga is like top tier. The OVA is like here. The movie is down here. The OVA, pretty good, definitely worth a watch. It's only 2 episodes. Only covers a little bit of it. Very little of the manga. Manga that I'm currently reading now. It is beautiful. The OVA is also gorgeous. It's like a cyberpunk kind of thing in the future with like cyborg people. I don't want to spoil too much about that. It is really cool. It's got a really interesting main character who has a mysterious background. Some cool robot fights. They have this cool futuristic rollerball kind of sport thing. It's really, really cool. It's got robot bounty hunters and shit. Really entertaining. Always want to watch this show. All right. I hope I get that reaction a lot. All right. We are at number 25. 25. This is where nostalgia kicks in some more. And I knew I wanted this on the list, but I wasn't sure where. I knew kind of towards the bottom because I generally don't think that this entire series is great, but it meant a lot to me. 25 is Naruto. The original Naruto, not Shippuden. Not that there aren't cool moments in Shippuden before people freak out at me. Some of Shippuden is okay. But the original Naruto really hits it here for me. Because there's episodes of that show that I could rewatch like infinitely. It has one of my favorite, like the Chunin exam is like one of my favorite arcs like in anime ever. It was like back in the days of like the big 3, it was the only one I was really into, like that, Bleach and One Piece. It was the only one I was really, really into. Ninjas are cool. Not saying it's perfect all the way through. It certainly isn't. But I would say like from the beginning through like the Chunin exams, a little bit into like Sasuke retrieval arc. I think that's the next one after the exams. It's like the stuff with Tsunade. Then it gets to like dumb filler. But like through like the Sasuke retrieval arc, it's pretty good. Now, Sasuke retrieval arc, Chunin exams, amazing. What is it? Land of Waves, pretty good as well. So Naruto, I think, is just, it meant a lot to me growing up. So I kind of have to like put it here. Is it perfect? No. I just don't think I would be the same anime fan. I don't think I would be nearly as into the medium as I like. No, I owe Naruto a lot. I really do. Hey, J-Chip, good to see you. When you read One Piece, on to the next one. Oh, man. Number 24. Oh, I had a last minute to change to this. Number 24. And I guess I'll cheat and I'll say both because this is my list. Fuck you. I'll just say one and I'll describe the other. And it's weird that it's at 24 and I made this adjustment, but I didn't really want to. I wanted those ones at the end of the list. I wanted there. So 24. I have Serial. I had Shiki, which is probably the best horror anime ever. There's not that many good horror anime in my opinion. It's about vampires. It's pretty good. It's not very consistently good though. I do recommend checking out Shiki. That's from 2010. Shiki. I didn't write down the year for the real number 24 is Serial Experiments Lane. Holy shit. This is on, like, I guess I shouldn't react like that because that's kind of the meme of the series. Lane is pretty insane. It has a huge reputation for being complex and like too smart for you. If I could watch it and understand it, believe me, like this should be like the biggest commercial for the show ever. I enjoyed it on my first watch through. I feel like I understood. I could grasp most of it. I feel like it was good. It was entertaining. it's a fantastic like sort of like prediction of like how people are sort of tied to the internet and people's like relationship with the internet, grasped in this like twisting with like this interesting story about this girl and her connection to the world of in the anime it's called The Wired. It's and then just and how people are sort of like relying on it and just like and just like it's almost like another aspect of ourselves, how we project ourselves onto the internet, much like this, such like building communities and stuff like that, that you're filling holes in your life with the internet, and how addicting that can be, and how positive or negative that can be. Serial Experiments Lane, highly recommend it. Another one that I really don't want to spoil too much of. And if you just don't be scared of it. I think that's such BS that people are like, oh, it just seems too complicated. You might not like it because it's, it's older animation. I think the animation looks pretty good. It's got really cool character designs by, I believe it's Yoshitoshi Abe is his name. Also did Haibane Renmei. It's really good. Watch Lane. And also watch Shiki. I did have that one minor edit. I think we might be edit free for the rest of this. 23, and this is going to be near and dear to somebody I know in chat's heart, if they're still here. This is an anime that I really want to rewatch, but I don't own it, and I keep forgetting. It was something I was going to pick up at Anime Boston this year, but thanks to COVID, that didn't happen. 23 is Psycho-Pass. Season 1, because that's all I've seen. I said at the beginning of the stream that I'm only going to talk about like what I've actually seen. I've never seen Psycho-Pass 2. I've never seen Psycho-Pass 3. I've never seen the movie. Psycho-Pass from 2012 is, I think that like Alita, the world of Alita is I think it's more like aesthetically pleasing to me. Like this future of like where like robot people are fighting and everything like that, and there's bounty hunters and crazy fights and stuff like that. Hey, Yorozu, what's up? And with Psycho-Pass, instead of the aesthetic, I think it's more the concept, because Psycho-Pass is this cool like futuristic cop cyberpunk show about this like dystopia where there's like the civil system that is judging, it's supposed to be the ultimate form of like judgment. There he is, level 1 anime noob. I knew you'd be in on this, buddy. Psycho-Pass, for me, it's 23. I've only seen it once. I think it would have been higher if I had sat through it again. It was some time ago when I watched it, probably near when it was airing. But I do remember it was really good, and just going through my mouth, I was like, wow, I really have to talk about that series. Because there really isn't like a lot bad about it. And I haven't seen season 2 or 3 or the movie or anything, which is where I start to hear bad things. But moving away from bad things, we're going to go on to 22, which is the most recent on this list, I believe. This is going to be 2019's Vinland Saga. Now, Vinland Saga is my favorite manga probably ever. I am almost completely caught up, and by almost completely, I mean like not. I have like 2 more volumes, and then I have to like a couple more chapters that they haven't put in print yet. But I'm well ahead of where the anime is, which was like the first time in my life that I get to like experience scenes like before they're like hyped by the anime. Which I know a lot of people get that feeling, but I don't do that a lot because I'm newer to manga. I've been watching way more into anime for a longer time than I have with manga. And with Vinland Saga, I knew it was this respected series. So I dove into the manga. The manga is fucking incredible. Makoto Yukimura is a fantastic artist. It's an amazing Viking story. It's fantastic. Studio Wit, the people that did Attack on Titan, did a really good job animating the anime. It looks really cool. The music in it is really cool. They did a very good job adapting it. Personally, I do like the manga better. I think that they did like
they didn't really like omit anything that like I think was. It's not like they did like a bad job. I just slowly started to realize that like maybe the story is slightly better in manga form, but it's still such a fantastic story that I recommend enjoying it both ways. So if you haven't dove into it at all, I would say watch Vinland Saga. It's this amazing Viking revenge story. This epic journey like all over the freaking earth in Viking times, with a lot of badass fights, badass characters, really great animation and everything. I recommend watch the anime, then go back and read the manga, because you'll be like here and then you'll be upgraded. Literally giving you an option to upgrade, chat. But don't upgrade from watching me. Continue to sit there and listen to my voice as I rudely probably ignore some chat. Oh, your favorite change, Violet Evergarden, became the new favorite. I haven't seen Violet Evergarden. I have not seen that yet. So, spoiler alert, that's not on here. Number 21 is from the good old year of 2004, Samurai Champloo. This is a pretty classically known show. Shinichiro Watanabe, the same director as Cowboy Bebop and Kids on the Slope, and a bunch of other stuff. Carol and Tuesday. You know, it's if for no other reason, it's uniqueness. It is a samurai story journey with like this cool hip hop aesthetic that no other anime can really like pull off, save for like some parts of Devilman Crybaby. But it's like it's not even just the music. It's like how characters like dress and act and even like fight. Like Mugen's like one of the characters like fighting styles is literally based on what do they call them? Like street dancers. I don't know what's the expression I'm looking for. But it's just so cool. You have the two contrasting samurai being forced basically to work together in this one mission. This used to be a lot higher on my list. Every time I rewatch this show, I like it like less because it is fairly episodic, and it's like 24 episodes or 26 episodes, but there's really only like 8 that matter. In air quotes, it's also like depending on what you define as mattering. There's a lot of like one-off kind of episodes where there's just like this one event that happens and it's them trying to deal with it, and then they never bring it up ever again. So it's kind of like if you had just like skipped that episode, it really doesn't matter. Like there's only like 8 episodes that like you have to see, which is, I kind of notice that stuff in shows, and I don't know. It sometimes bothers me, but this is not a negative thing. This is supposed to be a positive list. It's still amazing. It's got awesome animation, especially for 2004. Awesome fights, really interesting characters, deep characters that get like, one of them gets a good amount of backstory to him. The other one is very, very vague. The little bit you find out makes it like a lot more intriguing. Amazing world, awesome music, great OP. I don't like rap music. It's one of my favorite OPs of all time. But yeah, 21 Samurai Champloo. Number 20 is one of my best friend's favorite anime of all time. If you're watching this in the future, RK, love you, buddy. 20 is Spice and Wolf for me. I'm sorry if that angers you that it's that low. Spice and Wolf is another one of these that is incredibly unique, where it's a show about economics, which sounds boring as hell, but it's not. It's this traveling duo where one is this wolf goddess and one's this merchant guy, but they're both incredibly interesting characters. You ship them like super hard, although the show really like hints at them being romantic with each other, but never really pushes and goes there. It just makes you more and more intrigued in their relationship and everything, and you get sort of entranced in the world around them and actually thinking about the economics of what's happening and different trades that they're trying to do and trying to earn amount of money, investing in certain things, getting stuff stolen. I never thought I would give a shit about economics until I saw this show. And after the show, I completely stopped caring about economics. but it makes you interested for like the 22-minute runtime in each episode. It has 2 seasons. Really wish we would get a third. The Spice and Wolf number 20. That's from 2008. Number 19 from 2006. Black Lagoon. And inclusive of like the second season and Roberta's Blood Trail, all of it. I love all of it. I love like big shoot 'em up type shows. It's really cool. It's a modern day pirate show with a lot of like really interesting characters again, amazing fight scenes, awesome dialogue in between the characters. Like you just think that a character is kind of like one note, and then they go on this like really cool monologue about how like why they view the world that they do. Like you think that Revy, like the main girl that everybody knows from Black Lagoon, she's not the main character, but like the badass gunslinger girl. She is such in high contrast to Rock, who's the businessman that they sort of like kidnap and basically becomes part of their crew. They're so different, right? She has basically been a criminal her whole life. He was like a salary man who is sort of dragged into this world, dragged down to her level. And she has this incredible one of the cooler scenes where she has this long monologue about how she's basically giving him like a lesson about how the world really is, and he's slowly seeing that. And it really is like a Heart of Darkness-esque show where it's like this normal guy is dragged down into this crazy world and is slowly changing as time goes. And is it for better? Is it for worse? I guess you have to see. Highly recommend Black Lagoon. Number 18 is Death Note. Papa Miasma's favorite anime of all time. For me, it's number 18. I have a good chunk ahead of this, but I do have some after it. I think it's kind of it's a little chunk into the list. It certainly belongs there. It's from 2006, which apparently is a really good year for anime because I have like 4 or 5 things on here from 2006. Death Note. I think everybody kind of knows what the show is. It is one that makes you think about the actions that you could take given power, and how power can be corrupting, and how another kind of like Black Lagoon, where you have like people sort of like outlook on society and how they perceive it and how they justify their own actions. And I don't really like Light Yagami as a main character that much, but the show is that more interesting because I root against him, and they give you They give you a great antagonist to sort of like go against him. And it's just a really good anime. It is solid. It wraps up. I know I haven't read the manga. I do own the manga, but I have not read it. So I don't know any of the subtle differences or anything like that, or big differences, whatever. I think the anime wraps up pretty well. But yeah, just my opinion. Favorite flavor of water? Thought on bottle of water? What is all this water talk? Oh, there was the water behind me. Duh! I introduced the idea of water. Do you prefer water with your ice cream? I actually drink water with ice cream sometimes. Thoughts on Resident Evil having werewolves? Sure. By the way, everybody should watch J-Chip's show because he's going to start making Resident Evil content because I asked him to. Because he's passionate about Resident Evil, and I like when people make stuff about what they're passionate about. Number 17 is an OVA, and I think it's the last OVA on here. Fooly Cooly, or FLCL, is how you should like type it to look it up. FLCL, this is from the year 2000, and it's like a 6-episode OVA that I've seen several times. This is like the only thing that there's a chunk of like old Gainax animators that like went on to like, I'm pretty sure do like Trigger stuff. I'm not a huge fan of Studio Trigger. And I don't think that like Fooly Cooly is a visual spectacle like some people do. I just think it's entertaining. Fooly Cooly is a balls to the walls, crazy show
that's almost like impossible to really like describe. Like, where do you start? Like a guy gets hit by a girl on a Vespa scooter, and like robots start coming out of his head, and they like fight these other robots, and there's like this space pirate king guy who's coming to Earth, and there's a big iron in the city that is tied into it, and there's like this government entity trying to stop all this from happening. It's insane. It's not progressive. Just the original Fooly Cooly is incredibly entertaining. If you like bizarre, crazy animation, it's gonna be right up your alley. If you like stuff like Panty and Stocking, stuff like that, it's Fooly Cooly is the most confusing anime to me of all time. Exactly, but it's confusing in a good way. It's not like, I don't think it doesn't, for me, it doesn't like hurt my brain. I just kind of learned not to try. But I mean, if I had to guess, it's a lot about like growing up and stuff like that, and trying to figure out like what you are and who you are in the midst of like chaotic situations. That's my little assessment of what Fooly Cooly is like meant to be about. But it's also bizarre as hell on purpose. It's supposed to be sporadic. Or not sporadic. It's supposed to be like boisterous. Number 16, Kaiba. And no, not Seto Kaiba from Yu-Gi-Oh! This is Kaiba from 2008. Spelled the same way though, Kaiba. It's a Masaki Yuasa show, who is nowadays more famous for Devilman Crybaby. And he just did Aizoken, which I haven't seen yet, but I've heard is very good. He also did Tatami Galaxy, a lot of like popular shows that he's done relatively recently. Kaiba is, and unfortunately doesn't have a dub, sub only on this one. You can pick it up on Blu-ray, but it just never, like a lot of his stuff for some reason never got dubbed. And it's pretty bizarre. It's certainly got a unique aesthetic. It's definitely not going to be everybody's like animation cup of tea. The character designs are very weird. How everything is drawn. Like if you know Yuasa, you know it looks a particular weird way. But the story is what's interesting here, where it is basically about this world where people can sort of buy memories. And you could sort of like buy and trade memories. If you're in debt to someone, you could offer up these like memories. And so it's a sort of like black market where people are taking them and like legally and illegally and stuff like that. And the struggle of like finding individuality in a world like that. And sort of like uncovering memories that like a lot of the characters like have lost on this crazy journey. And I don't want to spoil too much of it, but it's only like 12 episodes long. It is very interesting. It is really cool to look at, even if you don't like how all of the character designs necessarily look. It's just, if nothing else, for the sheer like concept of like this like memories as currency has always like stood out to me. And there are some very touching moments in it that'll make you feel really sad. There's moments that'll make you laugh. There's some cooler like action type sequences. And yeah, it's just a really, really cool show that like not a lot of people talk about, but those that have seen it usually tend to like it a lot. To be fair, most of Yuasa stuff hasn't been dubbed, which I think it could if companies would actually put in the effort. Yeah, I mean, I've heard that like, I haven't seen Tatami Galaxy, but I know they talk like 500 miles an hour, so I'm assuming that might be kind of difficult. That might have like I don't want to say the Bakemonogatari problem, but like, because that one's more about like wordplay. But I don't know. I think it would. I think you're right, Unknown, where it would just take effort. But I really think that they should dub Kaiba, because I don't think Kaiba would be very hard to dub. I don't know why it just hasn't happened. But yeah, Kaiba I have at 16. Number 15, this is one near and dear to my heart. I've talked about this a lot on my channel. It was one of the first anime reviews I ever did, which means it's probably a bad video. But this was a show that I got introduced to from a really cool YouTuber named Black Critic Guy. He had it on his most underrated list, and I'm right along with him. I think it is certainly the most underrated anime of all time because nobody ever talks about it. Now and Then, Here and There is the title. From 1999. Now and Then, Here and There. And it's a very short series, like 12 episodes or so. Anime original. And it is, in its nature, it is like isekai, but it's not good isekai. It's the main character is basically brought to this other world of pretty much child warfare. Children are used in warfare. He's dragged into this ongoing battle where kids are forced to fight, and they're not really like any kids you would have like really ever seen. They've been forced to really grow up beyond their own like understanding. They go through like really, really dark stuff. The main character is like beyond like white knight perfect. He's just like just trying to be a nice guy, trying to be helpful toward people, and this world just continuously slaps him in the face trying to be like that. Because he goes through some dark shit. He gets like tortured. He gets beaten. He gets friends that he makes in the world. Like really bad shit happens to them. There's also this other girl character named Sarah, who is also from our time and gets dragged to our world and gets dragged into this world as well. And she gets really the brunt of like a lot of the bad shit. I don't think there's many like characters in any anime that go through such bad shit as her, at least that I've seen. I don't want to spoil it, but it might not necessarily be for everybody. It can be uplifting at times, but it is definitely a big fucking gut punch because it is just so. You have these like cute little like kid characters, and you have the adults of the world corrupting them. In many, many different ways. And, it's a beautiful show. It's got some awesome, awesome animation for its time. Really cool music. Has a fairly good dub to it. I love that show so much. It's had some like, sort of like ties to like magic powers and stuff of the world, like background of the world and stuff like that. I don't want to spoil a lot, but Lalaru from that show is one of my favorite characters too. But please watch. If you get nothing else in the stream, like even though it's only number 15, I think a lot of the other ones I think people have seen. If you have never even tried Now and Then, Here and There, give it a shot. You might regret it because you might get depressed. But there are uplifting moments. I don't know how the hell I'm going to segue this. Number 14 is Steins Gate. All right. I'm pausing because people might get upset because it's so low. Some people might get upset because they think it's too high. And the show is really nothing like Now and Then, Here and There, so it's kind of hard to transition. But Steins Gate from 2011, one of the most popular anime ever, at least on Mal, is it's such a cute little like bite of like otaku culture, like anime fan culture, wrapped into this like bizarre time travel story. Its characters are kind of like walking cliches, but it's like it's interesting in that regard, at least to me, because it's like it's like kind of like how in like Watamote, like she's the personification of like what you like don't want to be. I think the characters in Steins Gate, I think almost every anime fan has like a little piece of like Mayuri and like Okabe and like these characters like within their heart or something like that. And it's Tutoru is the greatest thing ever. Steins Gate is awesome. I love Tutoru. I used to want that as my phone. Like when I got a text message, I really wanted that, but that might get kind of annoying. But It's just a really cool story. A lot of people knock on it nowadays because people like to throw rocks at like what's popular and stuff. And when I first watched it, I probably would have put it higher than 14. But I haven't rewatched it in a while. I do think I really did not like. I didn't finish Steins Gate 0. I really did not like what I saw of it, and then everything else I heard about it, like after that, really made me not interested. I think Steins Gate wraps up pretty perfectly. There's Preload Region of Deja Vu, which is a follow-up OVA that is pretty good, but also I think like just not necessary. I think Steins Gate is very well wrapped up. I think it's got interesting characters. I like the time travel aspect of it. I like the horror that it can sort of convey with that, because there's just events that you kind of live like over and over again. And it is, the beginning of it is not great, but there are other shows that are very much like that, where the beginning is not great and then it ends up being a masterpiece later on. I think when you get to like the end of Steins Gate and like look back on it and look back at like what each character sort of like meant to the story and how they sort of like laid it out in this very cool way to make you, maybe you didn't like them at first, but then you realize that they were pretty pivotal in what was going on. And I don't know. And at the same time, it's just really entertaining. You got Tutoru, you got Okabe drinking Dr. Pepper all over the place. He's a mad scientist. He's awesome. But Is Steins Gate at number 14. Number 13 is another lesser known one, but one that I try and promote as much as I can on this channel. Jormungand. And I'm going to... it's Jormun, I believe Gund or Gand. Jormungand. If you start to type in Jor on Mal, it'll probably come up. It's named after the world serpent of Norse mythology. Although it's nothing about that. It's from 2012. Studio White Fox, the same studio as Steins Gate. And this one it gets a lot of comparison to Black Lagoon because it's also like a gun shoot 'em up type show. But this one is different because it's about arms dealing versus like being a pirate. It's about literally just like selling the weapons and sort of like the business side of that and the danger that can come with that. It's about Coco Hekmetiar, who is one of my favorite female characters in all of anime. She's this badass arms dealer from a family of arms dealers who has this team of like 9 bodyguards who are all fucking badass. And they all have interesting sort of like backstories. A lot of the show is sort of like telling their backstory and how they tied into starting to work with Coco and be part of her team. They're like god tier at fighting because literally every enemy that they sort of encounter, they beat kind of easily, which is a knock that I've heard on the series. But it just goes to show like how friggin' badass they are. It's kind of like, people like Rambo. Rambo kicks everybody's ass. Like, that's still entertainment to an extent. Jormungand is better than Black Lagoon, in my opinion. Thank you, Sweet Pea. I agree. I don't hear that very often. Jormungand, to me, I love its aesthetic. I love how it looks. The fucking OPs are fire. I love Coco as a character. And I don't want to spoil too much, but and it's also like this cool concept of like war and peace, where you have Coco is an arms dealer, right? The most interesting thing about her is that she has gotten very rich from arms dealing. Arms dealing is in her nature. It comes easy to her. It's like breathing. So making the world chaotic, right, is her art. Her dream is to have world peace. And I want you to think about that for a second. And she says that in episode 1, and you're wondering about that for like the entire series. As she has this big plan that she's rolling out for the entire show. And when it gets to the end, has 2 seasons. When it gets to the end of the season 2, it pieces together everything that she's actually doing. And she instantly went from a character that I had just blindly was all for her to I was like, wait a minute. It made me pump the brakes. Not necessarily hate her. I didn't like some of her actions, but I can sort of respect them because she's trying to make the world better. And it's just interesting. It's like, how far will you go to make the world better? It's kind of like back to like the Death Note sort of like morality question. So I don't really agree with what I think she's in a lot of ways like a better Light Yagami. Like, she's not this whiny teenage kid who's like in his room. She's this badass arms dealer with a team of badass arms dealers, trying to establish world peace. And her latest recruit is this little child soldier named Jonah, who is really good at fighting because he's been doing it his entire life, but he hates guns. He hates the concept of warfare because he was born into it. It's all he's known, and his life has just sucked ever since. And he joins her team trying to sort of like escape that life, and she really wants to make a world without warfare. And it's how you do that. That's pretty interesting. So, yeah, if any of that sounded cool, if you like kind of shoot 'em up type stuff, Jormungand is really, really good. Number 12. And this is going to be another one that I know people are going to want higher, but I'm sorry. Hunter x Hunter 2011. I have it at 12. It was almost cracking into the top 10, but again, this is sort of like nostalgia stuff for me and how I enjoyed it. Hunter x Hunter, I don't think I really have to explain it to people. It's this really long, epic shonen story that, like Steins Gate, in fact, I would say worse than the beginning of Steins Gate. I kind of think, I'm going to go out on a limb here, the beginning of Hunter x Hunter sucks. Like, the beginning of Hunter x Hunter is not very entertaining. Like, it's like them on the boat, him with the fishing lure. I mean, not until you get to like the Hunter exam starts to get like really good. There are some arcs that I'm just way into more than others. I was never a huge Greed Island fan. I think it's okay. The big one is Chimera Ant. I know that. And Chimera Ant arc is amazing. I get it. I respect it wholeheartedly. Is it my favorite arc in all of anime? No. I think it kind of drags. Not as bad as like the war in Naruto, but I just didn't find it consistently entertaining. It is consistently chaotic. It is consistently crazy and puts everything on like this epic scale. The powers sort of start out with like one way and things just keep getting higher and higher. And the ceiling of like the power that people have is huge. It wraps up in a very, very cool way. All of these things make it a very great show. I just do think that it's, as I was watching it, I wasn't as entertained as everybody else was. I didn't really catch on to it until I was sort of done and I realized, wow, that arc was really good. Whereas like something like the Chunin exams, I loved it like the whole way through. So I do think Hunter x Hunter is 148 episodes. I know there was even more manga to it. I'd like to see more, but there are just some points where it's kind of eh. And because it's kind of eh, sometimes, like the beginning of it, not super into it. Greed Island, wasn't super into it. The stuff with the bomber guy, I think is pretty like forgettable. But I think it's genuinely one of the better shonen series. I think it is definitely one of the best ones. I'll agree with you there, Unknown. I think is one of them. Can't take this Naruto slander. I haven't seen Hunter x 199, but 2011, very entertaining. I definitely will. I want to rewatch it at some point, which is crazy to say because it's 148 episodes long. Haven't read any of the manga. Yeah, that was the other thing too. Is you get to like the end of the anime and it's kind of like, well, that happened. Like a pretty significant thing happens at the end, and it's pretty epic that it happens. But then like you just want more, which it could be go read the manga, but we're not talking about manga. We're talking about anime. Okay, and I'm judging it on its 148 episode bubble of content that we have. The beginning of that bubble, not as entertaining. Middle parts of the bubble, pretty good. The last, the second to last or whatever big arc of that bubble, really, 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 really good. Makes you glad that you watched some of the previous stuff. And at the end of it, makes you appreciate it. So Hunter x Hunter, I do appreciate it, but just not in my top 10. But number 11, also not making my top 10, was Welcome to the NHK from 2006. Now, this show has not aged well in animation, for sure. But that's not really why it's so low. This anime is like Watamote in the fact that it's very relatable for people that are very antisocial. And hey, Light Lelouch, it's good to see you. I'm Sankyo no Terror. It's good to see you. Good to see you, Light. But NHK, one that I've seen several times, and it's just really delves into the world of hikikomori, people that are just like hermit and like neat type people, and this guy who's in consistent denial that that's what he is, and this girl trying to bring him out of it. And there's other cool like wacky characters going on. They're trying to make this like hentai game. He's trying to make like a hentai game like with his neighbor, at the same time in constant denial that he is this sort of like loser of society. And it's sort of like uplifting because he has this person sort of like seemingly like fighting for him to be better. You learn some more stuff about her and why she's actually doing it. And you kind of see him like grow as a character, which is something that you don't really get in Watamote. That's why I like Welcome to the NHK better. I think it teaches you a lot like about yourself and how to look in the mirror more and see like how people are sort of reacting to how you're treating them, what they're doing, and how relationships with people can sort of like, if life is like this big ladder, your relationships with people are like different rungs. And if some of them like aren't as sturdy, or if they break off for some sort of reason, then it's sometimes a struggle to sort of like recover. And nothing is ever easy for everybody. These are like very sort of like vague things that I sort of get from something like Welcome to the NHK, that I think makes it very entertaining and very relatable. Number 10 is Gungrave. This is one of my favorites. This is nostalgia glasses all over. And here we go. I'm going to piss people off because I like Gungrave better than Hunter x Hunter. Gungrave is from 2003. It is one of the first anime that I ever saw. It was on G4 Tech TV back in the day, if anybody like me is old enough to remember what that was. Hey, Lord Kobe. But Gungrave is this awesome revenge story tied in with like the mafia, and then it also has like science fiction sort of aspects to it. I'm gonna be honest, that's what people sort of complain about it, is the show is like the first like half of it, or like a majority of it, is this mafia like revenge story about these guys that like literally lived in like the streets, and all their friends get killed, and they basically have nowhere else to go besides the mafia. And they literally have like nothing but each other. And then one of them is like falling in love with like one of the girls that's related to one of the the kingpin guy of the mafia. And so he's in love with her. The other one is obsessed with climbing the ladder, with getting higher and higher in the mafia and doing whatever it takes to do so. And it sort of leads to like a clash among them, and then this sort of like revenge story of, and in which that one of the characters has to embark on. And some interesting fights along the way. It does get this weird, like they are doing these like weird experiments and stuff going on, and it makes like crazy sci-fi jumps in it, where like we're making like enhanced soldiers and shit like that, bringing people back from the dead. That does happen, and you wouldn't really get that from like the first, like besides like episode 1, because episode 1's kind of weird where it takes place like in the future. Like episodes like 2 through like 10 or something, like you wouldn't really like get that vibe of that's where the show is going to go. I kind of think that heel turn is really funny. And it's just, I like the revenge story. Brandon Heat is one of my favorite like male characters. He really doesn't say much of anything. Think Gene from Samurai Champloo. They're voiced by the same guy, my man Kirk Thornton. I really love Gungrave. A lot of nostalgia there, and I think that it's a mafia revenge story sort of done with this bizarre sci-fi thing, and it makes it consistently entertaining. Because anytime where you're getting bored of the mafia stuff, there's the sci-fi weird action sequences to it. Then when it's starting to get like really over the top with the sci-fi, it goes back to, at that point, it is like mano y mano, like the two main characters from the beginning squaring off with one another. And it's really interesting. Watch I did recommend it. Didn't think it was that amazing. I like the Brandon Meek asked me to explain why I didn't like it. Yeah, it's cool. It might not be for everybody. I get how people might not be that into it. I think that Brandon Heat as a character, he was like the first anime character that I really like saw myself in, like, I kind of wanted to be more like him. Like, I don't know. I always like, it always seemed like I was like somebody that like talked like too much growing up and stuff like that, and sort of like annoyed people around me and stuff. So I liked how he was like this quiet, cool guy. He was very quiet and kind of he always acted selflessly. Like he to his own like demise, to his own hurt. He was always acting for other people. And he's just the type of person that I don't think really like exists in this world, and I kind of wish more people were like that, because he's really all about his friend and then the girl that he loves, and the people that to Millennium, the people that he's like loyal to, and yeah, I don't know. I like his aspect of like loyalty to it. I think it's like makes him such an interesting character. Now, does the show get bizarre? Hell yeah. It gets weird. But hopefully you can enjoy the weirdness of Gungrave. Number 9 is Durarara. Now, this has a few seasons to it. I think season 1 is like the best because it's not the entire story, but it's pretty like, concise. Like, you probably could just watch season 1 and you're not going to get answers to everything, but I think it's decently entertaining. It is a show literally about like the city of Ikebukuro, or the neighborhood of Ikebukuro, and these crazy, bizarre things that happen there. And it's like a fictional Ikebukuro where there's like people that have these bizarre. One guy has like super strength for some reason. There's this other guy named Izaya Orihara who is a information dealer who literally knows like something about everybody within the city and uses to make a lot of money and like in his to advance him in like the dark, in like the underground world, I would say. There's a headless ghost that rides a motorcycle. Yep, this all happens in Ikebukuro, and they're all sort of like tied together. And the show is really about like this crazy like Pulp Fiction-esque setting where it's all like all these stories very like interwoven and told in like sort of like different orders and stuff like that, and you see how different characters like backgrounds and like their current events are also like tying one to each other in this big bizarre story about like there's like the mafia and there's like street gangs, there's supernatural entities at foot, all within from if you just watch this like from up in the clouds, it's just the normal city of Ikebukuro, but it's anything but normal. And Durarara, very entertaining. I do like it considerably more than Baccano. I don't have Baccano on this list by the same author. I think that Durarara is more consistently entertaining. Yeah, it's got a ton of interesting characters. Celti, the headless ghost rider, who literally talks with a cell phone because she just texts on it and shows it to people because she doesn't have a head. She's a Dullahan, is the mythical creature that she is. She actually has a love interest, a Shinra, this doctor guy, and their relationship is very, very cute and entertaining. And
funny. It's a guy trying to have a relationship with this headless woman. Pretty funny. And it's got some cool action to it. Later on, it gets like seasons 2 and 3, it gets a little more ridiculous, but it also gets a little more actiony. So if you're more into the action of it, I would say definitely check it out and focus a little more on like the later seasons. But very interesting story nonetheless. Number 8, and I wish that this wasn't true. I really wanted to do this for the meme, but I just couldn't justify it. Number 8, I have Eureka 7. As confusing as that is. From 2005, it's like Eureka, Eureka, and then the word 7. But it's a character's name in the show, and they call her Eureka. So for the 5 millionth time on the internet, I'm going to tell people that it's pronounced Eureka 7. I guess if you want to say Eureka 7, I'm probably going to know what you're talking about, but that sort of tells me that you didn't really watch the fucking show, because they literally say Eureka like 9 million times. I'm sorry, that just sort of pisses me off when people do that. It's like saying Mikey Mouse. But Eureka 7 is a fantastic literally, like, I don't want to say like rags to riches, but this huge journey anime where this kid Renton, it's in the future where people can literally surf on the sky with these like big mechs. And it's very hippie. It's very like anti-government and like the military, because there's the military government of this world that are really like sort of like oppressing things. There's this whole lore with this like alien species that made contact with like Earth at one point, and a lot of that is sort of like the facts about that are like hidden until like way later. But there's this like teenage kid who, his dad was this hero years and years ago, where like the aliens like were first like making contact with people. And he doesn't really know much about his dad, but his dad is this big like legend, and he has these like high expectations set for him that he's not really like about. He wants life to like be easy. He wants to go out and he wants to, surf on the sky and go on these like big adventures. Like he looks up to these people that have like true freedom. And when he finally he's wrapped up into the Gecko State, which is this group of people like kind of like hippies that are very like anti-government. They're literally like pirates, really. They're all about like fucking with the government's plans and everything. It's a lot of like ex-military people and stuff like that, who now make a living making this like magazine about like lifting, which is like the sky surfing. And it's got amazing soundtrack, awesome OPs, really cool bones animation, especially from 2005. Awesome voice acting, especially in the English dub. And it's an awesome romance because he meets Eureka, is a mysterious girl that is also part of the Gecko State that has ties to the aliens, and I'll leave it at that. And she has just gone through a whole bunch of shit in her life that Renton can't even like fathom, but he falls in love with her like basically at first sight. And together, for some reason, they're able to pilot this really strong mech. And it works its best when they're doing it together. And, fate sort of like guides them into that direction. And he's sort of like haphazardly trying to get this girl to fall in love with him, where he can like not relate to her like at all. Like, she has gone through a bunch of shit. He has gone through like nothing. And a lot of like the show is really sort of like picking on Renton a lot of the time. A lot of the characters are literally sort of like bullies to him, like verbally, and they're hard on him because they're really trying to drill into his head that like life is fucking hard, man. It is, especially in this world, it is pretty like dog eat dog. And it's, if you're trying to work for peace, you got to actually like do the work aspect of it. It is, it's not easy. And he learns that from them and then he goes on like this whole like other journey with this other ship. And it's just really cool. It's this epic adventure.
with like big spaceships and mechs, and oh, it's gorgeous. I fucking love it. I didn't watch it until a couple years ago, like 2015 or so. If I had watched Eureka 7 when I was like a teenager, probably would have been my like number one. I think it is certainly a little more appealing to people like in a younger age. By younger, I mean like teenage years. And it's not, you know, looking on it now, I don't think it's the greatest thing of all time. That's why I have it here at number 8. But it is something that I feel like people did talk about it like back when it was airing and then some years after that. But I really feel like it's like died down. Now, don't just watch the original 50 episode, I think it's 50 episode series from 2005. Because they did recap movies, they did an OVA, and they did a sequel. I have heard that the others are garbaggio. I have heard that everything else that they've made in this is garbage. So AO is the sequel. I heard that sucks. There's recap movies. I've heard from people that sucks. And the OVA I read wasn't very good either. But everything else seems to be like shittily done. The 50 episode anime series from 2005 by Studio Bones. Eureka 7 is one that you need to watch. Number 7 is Soul Eater. Soul Eater from 2008. I believe it's another Bones one. This is my favorite action shonen ever. So a lot of people have Hunter x Hunter at number 1. I have Soul Eater. I think Soul Eater is consistently entertaining the entire way. That I haven't. There's very few shows that I've binge watched as much as I did Soul Eater when I first saw it. I remember watching episode. It was on Netflix. I think it's still there. I watched it on Netflix years back, and before I knew it, when I had started it, and I was like, "This is pretty cool." Before I knew it, I was on episode like 13 or 14, and I was like, "Where the fuck did the time go? Holy shit!" Amazing aesthetic. It's like the most like Halloween-y looking show ever. It's got interesting anime like powers and like with weapons and how their souls resonate with each other. Literally, different characters use different weapons, which I'm really, really about in anime. I think that's really cool. Tons of interesting characters. Some characters moderately annoying. I know a lot of people don't like Black Star. I think Black Star's okay. I think Tsubaki is very interesting. I like Maka and Soul as characters. I think Soul's got a lot of like interesting personal conflict, like literally like in his head and stuff like that. The death, literally like the Grim Reaper, like literally like Death himself is really funny, but also like a badass. Maka's dad, Death Scythe, is really cool. I know the manga is fairly different. I haven't read it, but I do know that there are differences to that. I do think the final arc of Soul Eater is kind of rushed. They lead you to believe it's like this one really super strong villain, and then you get to him, and it's kind of like, wah, wah. It's like, I mean, it has a conclusion, but I think it's, you know, I realize I might sound like a insatiable baby because you said the Hunter x Hunter took a really long time to get to its cool conclusion, but you said that Soul Eater went too fast. I don't know, dude. Find something in between. But Soul Eater's great. It really is. Like that's like if that's my only complaint about it. Really, is like the last arc is kind of rushed. It's not really like a bad arc. Like what's there is quality. What's there is good. The stuff with the Kishin is very cool and haunting, and some very memorable scenes, and really, really good. I like Soul Eater a lot. Number 6, Neon Genesis Evangelion from 1995. Now I'm also including like End of Eva within this, even though it's like the follow-up movie. The ending of Soul Eater was pretty bad. Yeah, it was like 900 miles an hour. I'll give it that. But at least it like wraps up, sort of, unlike some anime that are purposely omitted from this list because they're not in my top 28. Ava, though, is number 6. Now, I highly recommend watching Ava, by the way, not with the redub that they have on Netflix. I need to warn people that haven't watched it. That new dub is awful. Watch it with its old original dub or in Japanese. Evangelion is this crazy look into Hideaki Anno's like mentality at the time he was creating it, and it's so Like I love when people really put themselves into their art, and you can just tell like this guy was going through so much shit, mental shit when he was making this. Every character in this crazy sci-fi mecha fighting alien show is going through this like different like mental problem going on with them, sort of interacting with one another. You have like abandonment issues. You have people trying to become actual individuals, and just people with a failure to communicate with one another, failure to communicate with like humanity in general, all tied into like this fight for humanity to try and survive against these like evil, these like crazy like alien beings called angels. And then you start to learn about what like the angels are and what they're actually trying to do. And it gets really bizarre and all over the place. Then the end of the original anime happens. You're like, what the hell's going on? Then the movie happens, and the movie ties up the loose ends in a way that you really probably didn't see coming. It's pretty crazy, but it's good crazy. It is memorable crazy. It's got some really cool animation from 1995. Awesome soundtrack to it. Amazing OP. A lot of like, you know, crazy. It's not gonna be everybody's cup of tea. And it's, you know, I get that. But it's got so much like crazy, bizarre aesthetic to it, and like the imagery. I used to really be a huge fan of like. There's a lot of like weird like religious imagery to it that in interviews Ono has said is kind of just there because he thinks like it looks cool. And you know, when I was younger, a boy like going to like a religious school, I was like, wow, this is cool. This is in my anime. I don't know. I just think it's aesthetically really cool looking. I like how the names and stuff are like the angels, and I just think that it's such a cool show where it's like people literally engaging in like mental battles with themselves and physical battles with these crazy alien things in these giant cool mechs. Not even really like mechs, you know, like the oh my god. All right. Don't want to spoil it. If you haven't watched it, I'm sure most of you have, but watch Ava. And then watch End of Ava, because don't just stop with the series, because that won't make any fucking sense. Number 5. We're into the top 5. It'll be over soon, I promise. Number 5 is Monster from 2004. Naoki Urasawa's Monster. This is an amazing show. This is, without a doubt, probably out of anything, probably the easiest anime to adapt into like a live action, because it literally just takes place in like real when is it? Like 1920s or 1930s Germany. A lot of it. If you know nothing about Monster, it's about this Japanese surgeon who goes to work in Germany, like, I might mess up the year, 1920s, 1930s or whatever. So like near like Nazi time. I don't want to sound excited about that. But he goes, he's this renowned surgeon working in Germany. And he's trying to climb up the ladder. He's very young. He's dating the daughter of like the chief of medicine or something like that. Things are looking good for him. One night, he's like the there's like, it's like him and like one other surgeon like available. They get these like two patients at once come in, like the exact same, or no, one patient comes in and it's like a like an official or something like that, like somebody like with a political ties. Somebody might correct me about that, but it's somebody with like it's like a fucking duke or some shit. Somebody who's probably corrupt as shit. And then this kid also comes in. The kid, I think, comes in a little before him. This kid who has a bullet wound like to his head, but he's, you know, surviving somehow. But he's like on the brink of death. And our guy Tenma is like, he's about saving like the kid. He's done this in the past where he treats people that like he treats some of like there's a lot of people like in Germany at this time looking down on like immigrants that have people that come into Germany recently. He treats those people. He operates on them, which people are like, what the fuck are you doing? he's a genuinely good guy as a surgeon. And so even though his bosses told him, like, you got to operate on this fucking fancy schmancy political dude, he's like, no, I'm going to operate on the kid because I feel that this is the right way. The kid was here first. I'm doing this. He operates on the kid. Miraculously, he saves the kid. Does a really good job. The problem with that, political guy goes to like this lesser surgeon dude, not Tenma, and he fucking dies. And Tenma kind of gets like blamed for this, and his career's fucking like shitty after that. Like they're not gonna really let him like climb up the ladder. Girl leaves him. Everything goes to shit because he was a nice guy. Gets even worse. That little kid grows up to be a fucking serial killer psychopath. Johan is one of the coolest antagonists in anime history. The kid grows up to be a killer. A lot of the show is you finding out why and how, because Tenma, years later, finds out about this and dedicates his life to stopping Johan, figuring out what the fuck is going on. And along the way, you meet a whole lot of different characters. Johan has a sister. That girl, that woman that Tenma was with, has her own like story to her within the anime. It's really long. It's like 74 episodes. So grab your fucking popcorn and shit. But it's really worth it. There's whole like mini arcs about like other like side characters going on like various adventures and stuff like that they eventually like tie into other stuff, and you're like, holy shit, this is why this happened. It's really, really cool. Johan is an amazing villain, and just when you think like you've caught up to him, gets away or something like that. It's very like Naraku-esque. He's always like one step ahead of Tenma a lot of the way. It's a big like mental battle. And it's just fucking epic. Monster is so good, and I'm so pissed off that you can't like buy the DVDs or anything because they fucking haven't released it all. Hey, Shady Pirate. Monster is amazing. It is so good. But it is rather long. I do, try to watch it in like bursts, but I think it is definitely addictive. Number 4, and I wish that this could have been number 3, also for the meme, but it's not. March comes in like a lion, or Sangatsu no lion. Get it? Because San is 3, and March is the 3rd month. I wish it was number 3, but no, it's number 4, because I like to be confusing. Sangatsu no lion, or March Comes In Like a Lion, from 2016, Studio Shaft, partially co-directed by Akiyuki Shinbo, and it is about shogi. Hey Axel, what's up? It's about shogi, but mostly about this guy named Ray who is a shogi like prodigy. He's really good at a very young age. He is the son of a guy that was also into shogi. And both of Ray's parents ended up dying when he was very young. He was adopted into this family of higher level shogi players, and because he was so like naturally good at it, he sort of stole a lot of the attention away from like that family's like real children, because they were not as good as shogi as the newly adopted guy. That caused a lot of drama for Ray growing up with his brother and sister. And so he was thrust into this family where, he was just trying to sort of get better at this game that he had thank you, Axel, for the happy birthday. Trying to get better at this game that he has a connection to with his stepfather, or foster father, whatever it would be, adoptive father. He's trying to get better at this. Meanwhile, he feels like he's destroying their bird's nest of like their home. That really kind of like changes the lives of like his two siblings, and sort of as him, he has a lot of trouble like fitting in with people around him. He has trouble communicating with people in school and everything like that. He's also into like shogi, which not really kids his age are into. So he had this like very hard upbringing of being like isolated, not only in public, but even like within his own family. And that coupled with, losing his mom and dad at a very young age, shocker, leads him to having some mental problems down the line. And he, tries to be as isolated as possible, lives on his own and everything, competes in shogi. He goes to school but doesn't really have any friends. Till one day circumstances happen where he befriends these three sisters that own this, their family owns this sweet shop. And they're incredibly bubbly and warm and kind people to him, and are just constantly wondering why is the way that he is. They're literally very much the opposite of him, but have also dealt with problems of their own and loss of their own, and they bond together. And then the shogi aspect kicks in, where I know nothing about shogi, but I was really into the shogi scenes in this anime. It is consistently entertaining. It is like Japanese chess. You don't really need to know a lot about it. You just need to know it. They're pretty tense scenes. There's this ladder where if you beat people, you obviously move up and stuff like that. If you lose a certain amount of matches, you get relegated to a lower division. Some of these guys are older, and you literally have this Ray kind of feels bad because he's this upstart that is beating the shit out of these older players. And if he beats them, some of them are getting demoted, and maybe this was their last shot. So it's sort of his desire to want to win, because this is what he has in life. This is what he's good at. He's dealing with that animal within him, versus it's also him trying to be nice to people. And on top of not being able to connect. And it's just a whole ton of drama to it. It is beautifully animated by Studio Shaft. Highly recommend March Comes In Like a Lion. It'll make you feel things. You don't need to know shit about shogi, excuse me. You don't need to know nothing about anything about it. The show tries to teach you a little bit, but fuck that. You don't need that. If you know anything about shogi, I guess that would be a benefit. But not necessary. But what is necessary is for you to watch Sangatsu no Lion. Number 3 is Cowboy Bebop. One I consider an anime everybody needs to see. If you say that you like anime, you need to watch Cowboy Bebop. From 1998, Shinichiro Watanabe directed it. Fantastic. Space cowboys, literally space bounty hunters. Incredible cast of characters. Incredible music. Yoko Kanno did the music, the composition for this. An amazing OP. Tank by the Seatbelts. Classic. Fairly episodic at times. There's a lot of just missions that they sort of go on and consistently fail. They're very much failures as bounty hunters. But then it does tie into their backstories, and you learn more about the characters themselves. And they're all very interesting. Then sort of there is a slight overarching plot with one of them, where he has these former Spike has these former mafia ties. I like some mafia stories. If you don't know, I like Gungrave. And he has this very interesting background, and it's there are just episodes that just hit you hard. The one with the music box, I think it's not the music box one, but 4 is, I believe, called Bow to the Fallen Angels. That's that iconic scene of Spike getting shot through the fucking, going out the window, and is falling, and this cool music playing. It is aesthetically awesome. The story's great. The characters are wonderful. It's a real cool look at sort of the end of hand-drawn animation. And it is really, really, really cool. And it leads up to this great battle at the end. I love the Spike versus Vicious fight at the end, and how that concludes and everything. Amazing. One of the coolest endings in anime. God, I love Cowboy Bebop. It is so good. I'm assuming that a lot of you have probably seen it. And if you haven't, you need to. Number 2 is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And that's going to, I really took some wind out of number 1 and 2 here, because I'm starting to get tired. Number 2 is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I have this at 2. It really could be number 1. Number 1 and 2, I sort of flip in my head. I put major nostalgia goggles on. If I'm saying this is number 2, you already know it's going to be number 1. But Brotherhood is amazing. It is great from start to finish in almost every regard. It is everything I want in anime. It's got cool powers. It's got amazing characters. It's got awesome dialogue. It's got memorable scenes. It's got side characters that could even like have their own show. It's got this epic journey from like having nothing to like having like almost everything that you can imagine, realizing like getting to your goal, realizing that like is that goal really worth it? How much can you sacrifice for your goals? It's got just so much to it, so much great. And the original FMA from 2003 or whatever is also very good. But I don't really like the ending of that one. I don't like the Conqueror Shambhala movie either. I think it's kind of weird. It does deviate from the manga, which I didn't really care about at the time. I just thought the ending was weird back then. Then they redid it with the real manga ending that is Brotherhood. And man, is it great. It is so good. The only slight knock on the show that I sort of agree with is, if you haven't seen it, I want to avoid spoilers as much as possible, but I'll say this, is they could have handled the character Maze Hughes a little better. And I'll leave it at that. You know what I'm talking about. But, for everybody else that like saw the original and then knew what was going to be going on in the second one, it's so good. It is so great. I have the manga, but haven't read it. I feel like I've said that like 7 times tonight. Someday I really want to read this all 27 volumes because I know that the story is so good within. It is just like I said like Soul Eater was like the best like action shonen, but like I mean that in like the how do I put this? Like the I don't know, like not like kids in a school type shonen, if you know what I mean. Like I think Alchemist is on like a higher level than those. And I think it's the journey of it is so interesting. The alchemy as a power is so cool and intriguing. And it's just it's like the ability to create, to have something and turn it into another thing is really cool. They got the cool auto mail aspect of it. People have like metal arms and legs and shit. There's the military versus like everybody else aspect of it, like government trying to control people, government being deceived. The government doesn't necessarily have the best things in mind for you. Surprise. And showing like the corruptness that can happen within like a government really controlled by the military. I love that. I love that aspect to it. You give me cool powers, you give me solid animation, you give me great voice acting, you give me great music, you give me a great journey, you give me some romance vibes to it. Memorable characters, everything. The whole shebang is Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. The whole shebang. Like here's a shebang, all of it. Could be number 1. But it's not. Because if you know me, if you know the name of the channel, if you know what that comes from, it's not the Black Dahlia Murder song, although that's pretty cool. I do like metal. Black Dahlia Murder, pretty cool. Miasma's a pretty cool tune. If you like metal at all, check it out. But I get the name Miasma from my favorite antagonist ever, Naraku from Inuyasha. Inuyasha is my number 1 favorite anime of all time. From the year 2000, an adaptation of a very, very long manga from Rumiko Takahashi. And this is major nostalgia glasses because I realize that it's not consistently great. It has like a whole season of filler. I think it's season 4 is really BS monster of the week kind of stuff. But it is, to me, an actually entertaining isekai type show where the main girl goes to like this feudal Japan world. There's demons, there's humans, there's half demons, there's the relationship in between them. There are people that hunt them. There's magic power to this world. There's this one jewel that can grant so much power that it gets broken up all over the world. It seems like they never conveniently they never say how many shards there are. It keeps everything going. Hi, Zombie Warrior, welcome. But this is a good time for you to come in. I'm on number 1. But it's just so. It's the first anime I ever saw, so it's major nostalgia points. I know it is not fantastic. I know Inuyasha can get very repetitive. I know it can get kind of boring, but I just love the main cast and the side characters. I already did a whole video about why I love Sango so much. Number 1 waifu of all time. Disagree, fight me IRL. And it's so good. It is. That's the only show that I think I can like rewatch like forever. Like they always talk about how like you could like if you were trapped on an island one show, I would bring Inuyasha because it's like in total like counting final act, I think it's like 193 episodes. So that's enough to like rewatch. There's episodes that I've seen of that like multiple times. There are like side characters that are very like relatable. There's this side character named Jinenji, who is this half demon who unfortunately doesn't really look like other people. He's pretty like ugly in the eyes of like other people, and he's really bullied by everybody like around him. Inuyasha is really sympathetic to him because he's a half demon. Fortunately for him, he looks like more like a person and is strong. Jinenji isn't very strong. He just wants like a simple life with him and his mom, yet society keeps just going against them all the time for things that he can't really control. It's a generous mission. But it, man, I love Naraku as a villain. People get pissed off at how he's just like there forever. I like that. I love his poison power. That's why I call myself miasma. I've always thought poison stuff was cool. I do think Naraku's very cool. He's got an interesting backstory where he used to be this bandit guy and fell in love with Kikyo. I haven't even touched on Kikyo yet, the romance side of it, but Naraku's a very, very cool villain. He's like almost unkillable for like a majority of the show. Has a lot of like vassals and his own creations that do a lot of like his bidding for him. Kikyo is better than Kagome. Kobe, a younger me and you would have fought, but I mean, I still sort of disagree. But every time I rewatch the show, I like Kikyo more. It's swaying. I used to really hate Kikyo. Kikyo is Inuyasha's former love from the past. Kagome is the reincarnation. So Kagome and the main character. So Kagome is set up to be like the main girl, and you like match her and Inuyasha together, right? Well, it's not that easy because Kikyo comes back to life, and it's like, whoa, shit. And her and Inuyasha have some drama, obviously. And Kaede is better than Sango. Sure, if you're into that, J-Chip, if you're into the geriatric crowd, there you go, buddy. Have at it. And Kikyo comes back and adds this whole like level of drama to like the romance aspect of it. And even like the adventure with the jewel shards aspect of it, of trying to stop this ultimate evil, trying to, and seeing every individual character sort of like goals and trying to get these jewel shards and stuff like that, and get back at Naraku, and how Naraku has literally like fucked over like every character in this anime in like some way or another, either setting curses upon them or killing members of their family or something like that. And he's just the villain you love to hate, and you just can't kill him for a majority of the show, and it's super frustrating, but I love it. And the power skill gets pretty big. Inuyasha starts out with like a couple cool moves, like he had Blades of Blood, where he literally uses his blood as a weapon, way before Dead Man Wonderland did it. But he has this giant sword, really cool fights with humans and demons, and like I said, half demons, and all this shit going on in beautiful feudal Japan with great music by Kaoru Wada, who I got to meet at a convention. There's another flex. Awesome animation by Studio Sunrise. Man, if you can't tell, I love Inuyasha a lot. There are aspects of it that are not very good. Probably didn't need to be so long. We could probably say that about every Rumiko manga. She really likes to go all out on things, I guess. But I love Inuyasha. That's a show that I could watch that before bed, like every night. I haven't done so in a while. I've been starving myself on it for the last like few years or so. I really want to get around to like watching some episodes again. Just, it reminds me of being very young and Adult Swim being on. Like my parents would go to bed and stuff like that, and I would turn on Adult Swim, turn down the volume so they don't necessarily hear it, and just watching random repeated episodes of Inuyasha and just loving the world that it was in, wishing I could be part of this cool, beautiful demon hunting, demon fighting, cool power, feudal Japan anime world, which seems dangerous as fuck, by the way. But I love it. And I love the romance aspect of it, love the action, love the aesthetic and the characters. And it really just hits every check mark for me. That's why it's my favorite anime of all time. I realize it's not everybody's cup of tea. Might not be. But it got me into anime. If I owe Naruto a little bit for being at like number 25, I owe Inuyasha everything. I would not be into anime at all if it wasn't for Inuyasha. I love it. I honestly love that show. That's why it's my number one. But yeah, whew, that was tiring. That was a lot of talking. For my old 28-year-old lungs now. So I'm going to cut this pretty shortly. I am tired. I did get through the list. Hopefully some people watch this in the future. I genuinely thank everybody for coming and watching this tonight. Everybody, even if you checked out like a little bit of it, and came back later, watched it later, whatever. If you came just recently, thank you for coming by. Be sure to, I'll save this on my channel in the future so you can like rewatch and see some of the older stuff in my top 28. If you agreed with me, disagreed with me, that's cool. It's whatever. Maybe at some point you can make your own list. I would like to, I do think that I haven't watched nearly enough anime to be making a whole list like this, but I kind of wanted to at least get it out there because it's kind of like if you're going to be doing anime YouTube, it's kind of like it's like the mecca. It's like the thing that you got to do at some point is make like the big list. In theory, I think like percentage wise, to probably watch like 50 or 100 like more shows and then have like a smaller percentage of like what my real favorites are versus like the 200 and something that I've seen in my top 28 here. Obviously that would cut out a bunch of stuff and rearrange things. And that could be rearranged in like a month because there are shows that I haven't even watched that could definitely make it on here. Shows I didn't even talk about. Shows I'm currently watching that might make it on here. And there could be shows I think about differently in 5 years or so. And but thank you so much for coming, everybody. It really means a lot to me. Thank you to everybody on Patreon that supports me. You guys are awesome. I'm really glad that I was able to do this tonight because I really wanted to celebrate. Doing anime YouTube does mean a lot to me. It's not obviously not like my main gig or something like that, but it is a hobby that I love doing. I love hearing from you guys and hearing like your reaction to shows and when reading like your comments on my vids and stuff like that and seeing how you thought about certain series and stuff like that. And I love hearing like, oh, I watched this thing that you were talking about and it was really good. That is genuinely heartwarming. It's cool also if you say you watched it and you didn't like it. That's fine or whatever. But I like exposure to things that you might not have seen before because I owe a lot of other people for exposing me to certain shows and stuff that I wouldn't have seen without them. So I kind of just try to like pass that torch. And I do recommend that you do that for other people if you want. And I hopefully I can do that for you guys. And thank you so much for making this birthday really awesome. The hat is not coming back on. We're going to get one more shot of water Chan here. All right. I do want to thank you guys so much for watching. In the comments in this in the future, whatever, you can have at it for making fun of my list or whatever, but it's my list, okay? If you don't like it, go make your own. Thank you so much for watching. You guys really mean a lot to me. Yeah, please check out, if this is your first time really seeing me, please check out some of my other content. Try to do multiple videos every week. And thank you again so much. It really means a lot to me. And I'll see you next time. See ya.